Countdown. We're live. Hey, I'm Willie Bragg. Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show, where I like to share a lot of politics. And before I get started, because right now I want to talk about the double standard between Nomiki Konst and Jimmy Dore. And the double standard, and what I want to do is I want to play a video clip from each one of them with kind of a separate commentary. But, you know, the battles between the boutique left, the shit lib left, the TYT crowd, which Nomiki Konst represents, and the dirtbag left that people like Jimmy Dore represents. There is one other faction of the, and I'm using the quotation to make a point, of the so-called left. There, depending on your perspective between the Jimmy Dore left and the Nomiki Konst left, there is one faction of the leftists that I would think that both camps would view as worse, or at least I would like to think so. And I'm going to just play a really quick clip with also an explanation. Let me do that. And right now, this was from a couple of years ago, but still kind of relevant, and I will play it.
I'm going to get so much hate for this video. Hey guys, it's Christy. It's good to be in a recorded video again. Usually I do live shows. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but there is something that I wanted to put out there that was suitable for a short video. It's a question that people do roll up into my mentions and ask me from time to time. So I am going to explain to you guys why I will never vote for Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary. Most of my interactions with Sanders supporters, when they ask me why I don't support their candidate, they're not really interested in hearing why I don't support their candidate. What they're waiting for is for me to give any reason at all that they will then turn around and tell me that I'm stupid or uninformed or I'm a neoliberal or I'm a Republican. So basically my interactions with 90% of Sanders supporters are really, really negative, disingenuous experiences of people who are looking to bully me or intimidate me or judge me or shame me into voting for their candidate rather than having a conversation. I'm expecting that from this video too. I am fully expecting a bunch of Sanders supporters to come into my comments and tell me why I'm stupid and wrong, why I'm really a Republican, why I'm a neoliberal shill, why I'm whatever insult they want to throw at me for not supporting their candidate. And
Okay, that was from 2019. That Karen is worse than Nomiki Konst, and I can't stand Nomiki Konst. And and that's the kind of person that I despise. I even have less respect for anti-Bernie Sanders Democrats than I do hardcore right-wing Republicans that would go and shit on Bernie Sanders. At least with them, even though I have my problems with those kind of people too, at least it's consistent. Her, inconsistent. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have had this channel way back when with the software that I could go and use the video clips to just tear her arguments to pieces the way some of the others on the online left did. Because if Christy Winters ever see this video, I'm one of those mean, shitty Bernie bros too. Okay? I mean, I'm not as enthusiastic about Bernie as I used to be, but I was the very first online Bernie bro. And it did me pleasure to see her be straw man and destroyed by the Amazing Atheists and some of the others. Hewan had all these other folks that went after her. And, anyway, there's that. I just have to get that out of my chest. Now I want to talk about Nomiki Konst. Nomiki Konst is she has a program. She's with she contributes. I'm not sure she's officially part of the Majority Report with Sam Cedar, but I know I see her on Majority Report whenever I gaze upon Majority Report a couple of times a week just to see what's going on and what they're saying and everything. And usually when I see her, she's usually taking a shit on Jimmy Dore and all of that. And I'm just kind of like, okay, there's just another segment of, I'm going to go and bash Jimmy Dore for clicks. That's really what it's all about. And I grown to not like her because I found out that she's very, very pro-censorship, and I have a problem with that. I have a problem with censorship, and it makes the left look bad. It makes us look weak. It makes us look dumb. And, and she's a smart girl. But oh god, I'm so sexist. I don't care. She's there is. I said that because what's about to come up. So let me go ahead and play that. Shall I? Let me do that. And I will comment shortly thereafter. Yeah, but Christy Winters, she's worse than Nomiki Konst. So. This is from the Humanist Report with Michael Figueredo. And, as I said, I think that Michael Figueredo's Humanist Report might be the last decent program on the TYT network. It's just TYT has gone downhill. And anyway, let me just go ahead. And I hope he doesn't mind that I borrowed a clip, but it's relevant to the discussion. So let me do this with no further ado. All right. Okay. I'm on the ball this morning. All right. Okay, here we go.
Nomiki Konst appeared on Fox News, and her appearance is now blowing up and going viral. There's a Mediaite article about this, and people are watching and reacting to it, especially because of a particular exchange that she had with a former Trump promoter. He called her young lady, and her response was perfect. Imagine just for a second that she called him young man. It's unheard of. So obviously there's underlying misogyny there within that comment.
That's why I say young girl earlier. Just let me continue.
Condescending for him to call her young lady. And that's really what is going viral. But the broader conversation that they were attempting to have, and the point that Nomiki Konst was trying to make, is really, really important. Because, there's this conversation currently about wokeism and, the Democratic Party and their unpopularity. And so this whole idea that the Democratic Party is losing popularity because they're too far left and too woke. Whereas in actuality, the GOP makes this claim, yet they don't actually supplement that claim with an economic agenda themselves. They don't say, all right, well, the Democratic Party, they're pushing CRT, which they're not, but they're doing, woke thing 1, woke thing 2. Here's what we want to do. They don't say that. So notice when Nomiki Konst really zeroes in on that and explains the failures of the Republican Party and how all of this is a distraction, watch what happens. She gets cut off by the host. Take a look.
The whole Democrats once had on cultural issues is breaking. Hence, why dozens of House Democrats are jumping ship now and retiring before the midterm elections, and why the party's House campaign arm warned its candidates this week that if they don't figure out how to combat the GOP's alarmingly potent culture war attacks, they will lose badly. And as of today, 30 House Democrats are either retiring or seeking a different office. Nomiki.
Well, it's a redistricting year, and so the same thing's happening on the Republican side. That's what happens every redistricting year. But, there was one line there that was very powerful. Combating the Republicans' rhetoric, right? Their attacks. This never let a good crisis go to waste. When Donald Trump was handed the responsibility of really making America the leader in combating COVID, what did he do? He was rallying against the American government and inspiring terrorist attacks on the Capitol.
That's not true.
So you want to talk
That's
about
absolutely not
oh,
true.
goodness
All
gracious.
right, I'm going to step in there because you are putting things, incendiary things, into the conversation, and I know that TW wants to rebut that. So quickly, and we'll come right back to you. Hold on, TW.
Yeah, there's no way we're going to sit here and pretend like Donald Trump was promoting terrorism. That you should apologize to American people for saying that. That's just not true. The reality is, the reason Democrats are losing is because Joe Biden has told us over and over that the number one problem in America is white supremacy, and it's not. That's not what's facing Americans. The people that are losing their jobs.
TW, I'm going to go back to Nomiki now. I just wanted you to respond on that one point.
Young lady, I live it. I don't have to get paid for it.
Don't call me young lady, sir. I'm a
Bless your heart, ma'am.
I'm a grown woman, and you can come up with all the code you want, but the FBI said that the number one problem in America now is white supremacy, organized white supremacy. That
Ask the people who lost their job if it's white supremacy.
Of the Capitol. And so, let's talk about the people who lost their jobs, because Republicans are responsible for tax breaks for the wealthiest. They have no interest in unionized efforts. They're union busters. So if we want to talk about the real issues, you're making all these code words to distract away from the fact that people
Let's talk about the real issues.
Republicans
Let's talk about the real issues.
Nothing to say about.
So I want to jump back in here, because the far left agenda in your party, and of course you were a surrogate for Bernie Sanders. So you saw that your party picked more mainstream, so they thought. That's not exactly what they're getting right now, but that's what they thought. So let's just go back to the idea that now your brand, so to speak, is getting voted out potentially. People are saying, no, we're done with this. We want you to focus on inflation and those bigger issues. What do you say about that?
If you look around the country to where the people who are not running for office again or switching districts, they're pretty much in more conservative districts. So those are the centrists of the party. Todd Kaminsky, a senator in New York, just said he was stepping down. Catherine Rice said she was stepping down. Those are the conservative Democrats who realize that working people they don't want business Democrats. They want Democrats who protect unions, organized labor. And all those attacks against the school boards right now, that's an attack against labor.
Hold on 1 second. Let me just put one more thing in here. In California, we're looking at erosion of support for Feinstein and Pelosi. Pelosi is not exactly in the middle mainstream right now. She's being pulled a bit to the left in the House by AOC and some of the other so-called squad members. So I hear what you're saying, but that is a cobalt blue state, and one in which progressive politics are very, very hot. I want to get to this. Turns out people in the Golden State, again, which is actually very blue, are souring on President Biden.
That was a train wreck, and I feel so bad for Nomiki for having to put up with that. I don't know how I would...
Okay, I am back. I wanted to touch on a few points here. Now, as I said, as negative as I am on Nomiki Konst, I will say this. She really did defeat Harris Faukner and T.W. Shannon, who she was discussing the issues with. Now, the January 6th insurrection might be the closest thing to really disagreeing with her. I mean, it was a coup. It was a coup, but I agree with Kyle Kalinske, and I agree with Jordan Sheridan when they both said that it was really more of a diet coup than anything else. They both acknowledged it was more of a diet coup. It was just something that just kind of sporadically happened. It was fucked up, but it was botched, and it was funny. Because, I mean, you got these Trump tards that they felt like they were going to go and take over the United States. And do they really think that a QAnon shaman motherfucker was going to go and become Senate Majority Leader or something? I mean, give me a fucking break, honestly. So maybe that might have been Nomiki's probably weakest point. But on everything else, she did objectively take care of those silly people on Fox News. The young lady remark, I mean, I joke when I say little girl, but honestly, that was very condescending on T.W. Shannon's part, I mean, honestly, that was. But getting back to what I was saying, Nomiki Konst talked about union busting, tax breaks, that sort of thing. And yet Harris Faukner talked about the Democrats being too far left, being too woke. Okay, where the fuck are they being so woke on? I mean, there's no legislation that said that Dr. Seuss has to change the content of their series of books. There's, there was no legislation that called for Mr. Potato Head to be changed to Potato Head. I mean, get fucking real. I mean, and people on Fox News and the right in general will go and focus on stupid culture war because they even have less shit to say than the Democrats, and the Democrats are horrible. They're garbage. But who talks about policy more than the other? At least Democrats are talking policy. You got the corporate Democrats, and you got, well, I don't really want to defend the squad that much these days, but still, in theory, in paper, they are discussing policy differences between these two factions. And, obviously I'm going to want the squad and company to win so we could get ourselves closer to social democracy. It's just, unfortunately, I don't even have a lot of faith in them these days because, I just seen what happened. I mean, we're still spinning in our wheels in the 1990s Bill Clinton era. The Democratic Party is still the Democratic Party of 1992, 1993, when the Democratic Party needs to go back to where they were back in the days of George McGovern and even Hubert Humphrey. I mean, Hubert Humphrey would be considered woke today. And that's another thing about the term woke. When people like Stuart Barney from Fox Business talks about Bernie Sanders and his woke agenda, what? Healthcare for all is woke. Expanding union rights is woke. Green New Deal is woke. Free college is woke. They think that these bread and butter issues, these kitchen table issues, is somehow synonymous with a rainbow flag. Not being homophobic saying that, I'm just trying to make a point. That's in the mindset of these people on the right there. But Nomiki Konst also call out on the corporate Democrats who are pretty much in charge of the show in the party. There's no left wing really been a successful left wing takeover. For crying out loud, Bernie Sanders was cheated twice. And it's taught me a lesson about trying to reform the Democratic Party from within. It's just a dead end. I'm not so sure independent politics work, but I'm damn sure that working within the Democratic Party doesn't work either. I don't know what the fuck is going to work. Something's got to give eventually. I just don't know when or what have you, but something's just got to give. But and the funny part was Harris Faukner referring to Nancy Pelosi as far left. Are you fucking kidding me? Maybe 30 years ago, when she's actually supported single payer healthcare. Now she's in the pocket of big pharma and big insurance companies, like most other corporate Democrats. She's a corporate Democrat. I don't give a fuck if she's from San Francisco. I mean, that's where Dianne Feinstein is from, and Dianne Feinstein is even more right wing than Nancy Pelosi. They're horrible because they're right wing. The problem with the Democratic Party is America's second conservative party. I mean, it's economically, the Democratic Party is economically to the right of the modern day British Conservative Party. It might even be to the right of Margaret Thatcher's era British Conservative Party. That's our political Overton window. That is our political Overton window. This is what's being dealt with. So, of course, I just needed to say that. So with a little bit of reservations, and if she ever hears this, she'll probably hate my guts because I've been critical of Nomiki Konst, but I'm going to give her a pass and say she handled herself well, because when Fox News know they're getting their asses owned, they cut people short. I've seen them do that with David Pakman. I've seen them do that with Kyle Kalinske too. They do not. They will cut somebody off when they're getting their asses owned, and it's not hard to own these people's asses on Fox News. I mean, I'm trying not to be a partisan hack about this, because I know I beat up on Fox News and beat up on the right a lot, and the right in a lot of ways, policy wise, are problematic. But the Democratic Party enables that shit too, and that's the thing right there. So I want to go with part 2 of this because there's relevance. So here's the thing: if Nomiki Konst can go on Fox News and we can all be proud, even a dirtbag piece of shit lefty like myself who does not like her can congratulate her for taking on these silly people from Fox News who should not even be respected or taken seriously. Well, Jesus Christ. When Jimmy Dore comes on Fox News, everybody on the TYT left wants to go and take a shit on him and say he's right wing, he's right wing, he's right wing. Now, there are people out there that think that I am like an ultra Jimmy Dore simp and all that. I mean, I like his program. I have some criticisms of his program, but I like his programs overall. I have criticisms of just about everybody on the online left, even the people I like the most. I can find some things that it's just kind of not it's like I'm not quite seeing eye to eye on this issue or that issue. We're all complex human beings, even online leftists like myself and others, all complex human beings. And so we're just trying to do our part to inform people. And so anyway, so Jimmy Dore gets a lot of shit because he goes on Tucker Carlson. Same thing with Glenn Greenwald going on Tucker Carlson and all that. And they were part of the TYT left. I mean, Glenn Greenwald was never on TYT as an employee, but you know what I mean. Jimmy Dore was part of the TYT network, and so. It was just all one big family during the Bernie Sanders campaign. And, unfortunately, that's when the breakup happened, when Hillary Clinton cheated Bernie Sanders out of the nomination. And then we saw that happen 2 years ago again. And it fractured even many folks on the online left. My criticism of Jimmy Dore from 2 years ago was, and looking back, even then, I was just like, yeah, he should have gotten behind Bernie Sanders instead of Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard should have gotten behind Bernie Sanders, and I do have a thing to say about that. I think if Tulsi Gabbard wouldn't have run in 2020, she would still be relatively progressive and probably a member of the squad right now. I still say that, but I see a grift that took place in her, and it just kind of. It just made me mad, but I know there's some underlying costs and everything. Some people on the left wanted to kick her out of the left, and she took the bait and she grifted toward the right. So, but anyway, with regard to Jimmy Dore being on Tucker Carlson, some people took issue with it, but I don't know. When I listen to Jimmy Dore on Tucker Carlson, I don't hear a right winger talking. I will go and play and comment shortly thereafter. As soon as it's buffering. I'm sorry about that. Let me do this.
We still don't have the full numbers from the Iowa caucus, but the results so far, the ones we've been given, indicate a narrow lead for Pete Buttigieg, who was once a mayor of a minor city in the Midwest. A big win for the little mayor? Not so fast. Buttigieg's campaign had close financial ties to Shadow. That's a tech company that completely screwed up the results on Monday. And then today, Iowa Democrats were caught, apparently mistakenly, giving hundreds of Bernie Sanders votes to total non-entities like Tom Steyer and Deval Patrick. You add it all up, and you begin to wonder, are people trying to stop Bernie? A lot of Bernie supporters think they are. Wouldn't be a surprise, actually. Democratic insiders in the press, they'll do almost anything to deny Sanders the nomination. Jimmy Dore is one of the very rare independent thinkers on the internet, one of the last left. He's got a podcast. He's a comedian. We're happy to have him join us tonight. Jimmy, thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't think I'm paranoid, but just looking at the accumulation of facts, which grows larger every day, I'm starting to think there's a real effort, not in public, but behind the scenes, to prevent Bernie Sanders from getting the nomination by the Democratic establishment. Am I imagining that?
You are not imagining that. No, you know what, Tucker, when I look at what's happening in the Democratic primary, and especially what just is happening right now in Iowa, what I think is not only is democracy alive, but it's thriving.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This is really, of course, this is the DNC. Right, by the way, they took over the counting of the votes. Did you know that they took over the counting of the votes? The DNC came in. Apparently, they don't have anybody who knows how to count stuff in Iowa, so they have to have the DNC come in. I don't know if you know the DNC rigged last primary against Bernie Sanders. Yeah, so those are the same people who, and by the way, the same people who rigged the primary against Bernie last time are the ones involved in making this app, right? So they got a bunch of people who worked on Hillary's campaign that work now at Shadow, and they helped build this app. And all of a sudden, and here's the thing, Tucker, and I've seen Glenn Greenwald make this point before, is that if these were honest mistakes, you would expect some of the mistakes to go in Bernie's favor and some of the mistakes to go in the DNC's favor. But all the mistakes are always going in the establishment's favor. So that's how you know this. These aren't mistakes. This isn't. And by the way, when they release those, say 62% of the vote, they're going to release those results How did they decide to stop at 62%? Where's the transparency? Why did they pick those counties? There's no transparency. This is obviously, how are they going to cheat Bernie? This is how they do it, because if you know what the headline was all day yesterday and today on cable news and CNN and MSNBC, it's Pete Buttigieg is in the lead. He's retaining his lead. And that's the story they want everybody to know. And that's what half the country now thinks, is that Pete Buttigieg won Iowa. But so there's so many levels of irony here. But here's, I'm just picking this out of my head. Here's one. Some of the same people who are regurgitating this propaganda, who are counting the votes in Iowa, are the same ones who spent the last 3 years telling us that Russia was subverting our democracy and that the sanctity of elections was the most important thing in American life. Are you noticing this? I am noticing that. Apparently, Russians work for Shadow, and they run the Iowa Democratic Party, apparently, because, so, yeah, of course, you know, I was one of the few shows that debunked Russiagate and saw through that, and, you know, that's a this is all kind of tied together, because Russiagate is a result of the failure of the Democratic Party to present a platform that gets people who want to vote Democrat off the couch to vote for them, so they can't actually offer them anything, because they're beholden to their donors. The same people who control the Republican Party control the Democratic Party. We don't really have two parties, right? So they have to do Russiagate and impeachment and all these these circuit shows, right, to distract you from the fact that the Democratic Party doesn't represent workers anymore, that they actually represent big pharma, health insurance, the military-industrial complex, and Wall Street. And that's why all this is happening, and that's why they have to cheat Bernie Sanders, because he's going to upset their game, their money game, and that's why they got to stop him before. The first job of the Democratic Party is to stop the candidate who represents the workers, and then and only then can they turn their attention towards Donald Trump.
So is that why we never have debates about the tax code? We spend a lot of time on bathrooms. We spend a lot of time on these kind of peripheral social issues. But I can't remember the last time someone talked about carried interest. Can you?
Tucker, as Nancy Pelosi is ripping up Donald Trump's speech, she's passing his legislative agenda. So, and also, if you watched closely last night, you got to see her applaud Donald Trump's imperialism when it comes vis-a-vis of Venezuela, right? So, and I know you did good work on Venezuela. We all know these foreign entanglements are just CIA plots that steal resources and give it to American corporations. They admitted so much. John Bolton admitted on Fox News that that's what Venezuela was. So you saw the one-party rule last night. You saw Nancy Pelosi applauding and getting up with Juan Guaido, who is a CIA-appointed puppet leader of the Venezuela. So you saw that's the part I like to call out. That's where they're both in bed with the intelligence community. They're both in bed with the military-industrial complex. And so yeah, you're right. We're not talking about real things. We're talking about Russia. We're talking about a phone to the Ukraine. We're never going to talk about why when the Democrats had complete control of the government, they gave us a right-wing healthcare plan anyway. Oh, maybe it's because there aren't really two parties. There's one party in America, and they're both controlled by big business.
Jimmy Dore, you're going to take so much abuse for doing this show, but I hope you'll come back. Too few independent thinkers in this world. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah. So that was from last year, and I remember I saw that about this time last year, actually. And thing about it is that Jimmy Dore was a Bernie bro in 2016, and sometimes he was confused as a Bernie bro in 2020, even though he was for Tulsi Gabbard. But Tucker Carlson invited Jimmy Dore as a voice for the left. And unlike Harris Faukner, with the way she treated Nomiki Konst, with all the faults that Tucker Carlson had. I don't want people thinking that I'm some kind of fan of Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson says a lot of things that I disagree with, a lot of terrible things. But I certainly do not think he's the worst there is on Fox News. I mean, I think that Sean Hannity and Mark Levin are a hell of a lot more toxic to the national conversation than Tucker Carlson could ever be. I mean, Tucker Carlson is problematic, but there are people worse than Tucker Carlson, just as there are people worse than Donald Trump. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were worse than Donald Trump. Same thing with Tucker Carlson. Mark Levin, Sean Hannity are worse than Tucker Carlson. Point being made. Jimmy Dore was allowed to make his case, and without vicious interruptions and partisan smears. And Tucker Carlson did acknowledge that it was cheating in 2016 against Bernie and again in 2020. And so, and he was even allowed, Jimmy Dore was even allowed to talk about the healthcare plan, that it was a right-wing healthcare plan. He didn't say Heritage Foundation plan, but that is where Obamacare got its concept from the Heritage Foundation. They're the ones that created the damn plan, and the Democrats, being the cucks they are, will adopt a right-wing plan before they'll adopt a common sense measure that exists in other countries around the world, a single payer plan like they have in Canada or in Sweden or in France. Again, on healthcare, I'm not opposed to Medicare for all, but as just as a side note, remember that there is a difference between Medicare for all, which means socialized insurance, and a national health service, which means socialized medicine, as exists in places like Great Britain. And I believe Italy and Portugal have something very, very similar. And to go beyond a capitalist economy like Great Britain, Italy, or Portugal, you have to go to Cuba for a healthcare plan that bold. But anyway, suffice to say, and for somebody that's supposedly right-wing, Jimmy Dore was pretty much calling out on the bullshit bullying by the United States against Venezuela. And so the point I'm trying to make, I mean, is this. Last year, and occasionally still, Jimmy Dore makes it on Tucker Carlson. Nomiki Konst, I'm not sure this was her first time, but she was up there. She did a damn good job. Jimmy did a damn good job just about every time he's been on Fox himself. And these two do not have any use for each other. They're like oil and water. You know, boutique left, dirtbag left. They're like oil and water. But here's the thing about it. The double standard. Will Nomiki Konst be considered a right-wing plant now that she's on Fox News? I mean, I know they do that to Jimmy Dore all the time and Glenn Greenwald. What about Cornel West that goes on Fox News occasionally? He even goes on in real enemy territory, Sean Hannity. And is he a right-wing plant? Is Bernie Sanders a right-wing plant for going on Fox News? Well, you better not say that to a Clintonista, because they probably would say, yeah, that is the case. That is the case. And as much as I hate Fox News, the fact that they had a town forum for Bernie Sanders, while MSNBC and CNN, how fucked it is that I actually had to acknowledge that Fox News was more fair to Bernie Sanders than CNN and MSNBC in the last two presidential cycles. How fucked up is that? And I still fucking hate Fox News. But damn, when they go and treat Bernie Sanders better than CNN or MSNBC, something is very wrong. It is very wrong. It kind of goes against the grain of how things are to be. So anyway, that's pretty much what I have to say to get out of my chest this morning, because I just needed to get this out of my chest because, as I said, I don't like double standards. So Nomiki Konst going on Fox News, good. Jimmy Dore going on Fox News, bad. I mean, honestly, why can't it be that both Nomiki Konst and Jimmy Dore going on Fox News making their case for the left being both equally good? Because that is my position. That is my position right there. And think about it is, if you can go into enemy territory, Johnny Rotten, which Johnny Rotten, unfortunately, his politics is to be questioned these days. But Johnny Rotten, who is now John Lydon, former lead singer of the Sex Pistols, Public Image Limited, once said when the Sex Pistols was touring in America, he says, instead of going to the New Yorks and the San Franciscos and all that, go to these little rinky-dink dives in the South and in the rural West. Go where you're not wanted. There's more to achieve. And so I do congratulate both Nomiki Konst and Jimmy Dore, and I mean for going into what I would perceive as enemy territory, Fox News, for making your case. You can make your case for Medicare for all. You can make your case for anti-war. You can make your case, for at its most mainstream FDR style New Deal liberalism, or really deep hardcore social democracy, or a actual democratic socialism, and you can do that on Fox News. You've done well. So I'm in a weird dilemma to say that for the two factions of the left, online left, the boutique left and the dirtbag left, who are just kind of like these days. Congratulations to both of those factions. You'll never, ever, however, hear me say anything positive about Christy Winter. Anyway, we have a chat line here. Now, the first chat line, I am not sure what Alex Vladov means by VUM.ONG. Had no idea about that. But Progressive Rising says, hi, Willie. And I'm responding back to Progressive Rising. Good morning, Progressive Rising. How are you? I am just, I'm tired, but I'm here to discuss politics. And I will probably be going to bed very soon, considering that I worked late last night and had a long night as usual. So if y'all like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree, comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are the muckrakers of our time. Feel free to share the content on this channel. And until next time, remember, there is a class struggle. And yes, we are all Julian Assange. Take care. And see y'all later. Music.